There are many TV shows out there that do have great stories and great characters and some great entertainment value, but when it comes to critical analysis, they tend to not be as thematically deep or symbolically complex as individual movies. For some reason, they just don't have as much rewatch value. I think the key problem is that because the makers of TV shows want to maintain audience interest across many episodes in the space of a few years of the airtime of the show, rather than just 2 hours in a cinema, character development and basic commercial entertainment value seems to be prioritized generally when conceiving and filming TV shows. They might include some thought-provoking themes, but they tend to be stated in dialogue, partly as a way to justify the running times of individual episodes. There have been the occasional exceptions which try to be more experimental, like comedy shows such as Monty Python or David Lynch's Twin Peaks. But in my opinion, The Prisoner from 1967 is the pinnacle TV show example that genuinely offers its viewers more than its basic premise, plot points, and self-explanatory dialogue. It has the intricate qualities and rewatch value of a classic standalone 2-hour movie, because it has hidden themes and symbolic ideas that are not stated outright in dialogue. In my recent viewing of the show, I took down loads of notes, and I am planning on making at least 2 in-depth videos giving my interpretations of the show. But for now, I'm just posting this video where I am offering 22 specific details I've noticed in the show that I found significant for anyone interested in delving deeper into the hidden sides of A Prisoner.
Number 1.
There are plenty of indications that the village is a symbolic representation of the conformity and insanity of a real-world civilization. This point is quite obvious to most people, but there are details that communicate this theme in more subtle ways, such as this location in London. This shot opens with a statue of a black deer, and the camera pans out to reveal a pavement layout that is checkered, and people walk on this. It reminds me of a life-size chessboard in a village, where people play the part of chess pieces. I believe this location was incorporated into the show to illustrate the chess game mentality present in the real world. We could even say the black deer is emphasized as if it is symbolically a night piece.
Number 2.
Despite the quirky and colourful visuals, there are little giveaway signs that the village inhabitants are psychologically confined by this imagery. There are obvious examples, such as the people dressed in colourful striped clothing that may as well be colourful jail clothes. In fact, some of the inhabitants wear black and white ones. Here is an unusual piece of fashion: black and white checkered sunglasses. I'm not even sure if these people can actually see out of them. I can see 2 possible meanings from this. First, if the glasses suggest that these people have a chess-like mindset, they probably have trouble trusting anyone personally. Or second, this could be a metaphor of them seeing the world in black and white, so to speak. Number 3, this sort of follows on from the previous point. There are some points where the local inhabitants are heard cheering, but we don't really see who is cheering, and some of them look miserable. This is definitely the case here in the episode Dance of the Dead.
All at the carnival, by order.
Number 4, there are many moments where scenes cut back and forth between showing scenes on screen inside surveillance rooms and showing scenes from the camera's actual viewpoint. And there are 2 specific moments in the show which draws this point to our attention.
No, the seminar.
Right. Put up section 39, sound and vision.
Switch to camera 5.
Camera 5 on, sir.
Camera 13.
Camera 13 on, sir.
Number 5, a tying in with the previous point, earlier shots inside the surveillance rooms, including number 2's lair, have big projection screens with no decorations. But later episodes show them to have curtains that are drawn out like in cinemas. By the time we have the episode Once Upon a Time, there is now a piece of cardboard theatrical framing decoration on top of a projection screen.
Number 6.
The lava lamp imagery was always mysterious to me in my previous viewings. I did think some of those shots before as conveying organic warmth, like being inside of an embryo. But when examining these scenes in detail, I think one definite meaning can be found in the very first episode, Arrival.
What we do here has to be done. It's the law of survival. It's either them or us.
To imprison people, steal their minds, destroy them.
In the same episode, we see another lava lamp, green colours this time, and the main character is shown under exaggerated green lighting as he is being medically tested. Number 7. In the Chimes of Big Ben, this office has this picture showing a floating rock in sunset. Is this a variation of a lava lamp imagery seen in the village? Also of interest is a picture of a keyhole. I don't know why he has this picture, unless it does physically unlock something behind this picture, or maybe that's a nudge to us that these pictures have symbolic meanings to be unlocked by us.
Number 8.
The mysterious entity referred to as Rover makes growling and roaring sounds, but in its very first appearance, it makes noises which sounds like religious people chanting. There are plenty of little inclusions of religious imagery throughout the village, and even these people in uniforms can be taken as some kind of religious disciples. Patrick McGowan was a devout Catholic, but this show is packed with anti-conformity themes, and in one interview he mentioned of growing up in a strict religious household. Personally, I think it's the case that Patrick did respect the more socially worthwhile values of his religion, but I think he opposed the more corrupt and institutionalized aspect of his religion. Number 9. There are plenty of soundtrack pieces which have a tribal quality to them. Essentially, the ideological struggles between the characters in the story are fundamentally no different from the ancient history of cavemen and tribes. Number 10. There are many details showing the main character to share some of the same traits of his bureaucratic enemies. This is verbalized at the end of Checkmate, but there are little subtle examples. For example, here in Magohua's death, after drinking a wide selection of alcohol so he can regurgitate poison out of his system, he organizes the little glasses in a straight line, and this is sort of paralleled by the way these lunatics are organized in the same episode. Number 11, being that the episode Bagohua's death turns out to be a crazy action comedy bedtime story for the children at the end, this moment of a bad guy obsessively piling his paperwork into his suitcases is likely a joke of a village's obsession with information that can be their downfall. The kids get to learn that lesson.
Number 12.
Here's a strange one. In the very first episode, Arrival, there are two characters who have the number 66 on them, and yet these two characters coexist in the same timeline of the narrative. But what is even stranger is that the dialogue and the editing seems to be deliberately drawing our attention to this discrepancy.
Follow the signs.
Number 13, in the same episode, the protagonist is introduced to new areas of his living accommodation, which is accompanied with innocent melodies that people might associate with childhood experiences. And very interesting to me is that the lamp here is gently swaying, not unlike the shots in Once Upon a Time with those swaying childhood objects.
Number 14.
In Once Upon a Time, the penultimate episode of the series, number 2's lost method of breaking the main character is called Degree Absolute. This is a fictional psychological technique, and the closest matching terminology is Decree Absolute, which is a finalization of dissolving marriages. Number 2 pretty much confirms this connection.
1 week. One teeny weeny week, my boy. Neither of us can leave. Till death do us part.
Number 15, in the episode Living in Harmony, when the main character regains consciousness, he picks up cardboard cutouts of the cardboard bad guys of the episode. The weird thing is that the gunslinger who he shot dead moments ago is shown retaining his position as a corpse. Number 16. This one I am not as sure about, but I will mention it anyway for your consideration. In Once Upon a Time, there are moments when the main character is seen staring at stage lights, which seemingly hypnotizes him. Now, what does that bowl of light look like? The other scenes which show objects of similar shapes like lamps I do think are happy accidents, but for this one to be emphasized a lot, I think there must be some kind of symbolic meaning behind it. Okay, these last few details are specifically from the final episode, Fallout. So, number 17. This episode reuses clips from The General, an episode about a television program brainwashing its viewers. An additional reference is the mechanical surveillance eye of number 1, which glows green lighting, similar to a glowing green flare seen in The General.
Hypnotize me no longer.
Number 18. The throne chair, as it is called in the script, sits on top of a pyramid structure, and whoever sits on it is bathed in blue lighting. So whoever sits on it becomes associated with those shots of pyramids that have glowing blue eyes on top. Number 19. The judge in the chair is called the President. That is in the final credits. Originally, the script draws comparison between this subterranean underground society with United Nations. Of interest, the script specifies that these people are chanting I, as in aye, Captain, or I, as used in political and legal gatherings. Number 20, a detail I found funny. After this loony has given his singing sermon, this bloke who is labelled as anarchist gives a speech that completely goes against the label he is given.
The prisoner has been charged with the most serious breach of social etiquette. Total defiance of the elementary laws which sustain our community. Questioning the decisions of those we voted to govern us.
Number 21, an interesting and funny detail. Why are there these many globes in number 1's lair? They are specified in the script as being all sizes, and they are on top of some kind of map. It's definitely not just about the conquest of planet Earth. Personally, I think a clue of its meaning is shown when number 1 gives the main character a fortune teller's crystal ball, as described in the script. Through the glass darkly, it reveals the ending shot of every episode featuring the village as a background. At this point, the glass ball is now a globe, if you will, of a village. And number 22. The very final shots of Fallout are the same used for the opening shot of almost every episode. The symbolic relevance of the standard opening and closing shots of every episode becomes more prominent when you consider the use of sound. Now, this is an area which is lost in the modern restorations of this show, which cuts down time for some reason, but personally I think it is a mistake. Compare the sound of thunder in the opening shot to the sound of a slamming gates in a closing shot, in the original version of the show. With the ending of Fallout, it reuses one of the opening shots from the show, where the main character is seen racing past the camera before his face is shown, which very much parallels the standard closing shot of every episode except Fallout. And this comparison I think is more evident if you look up the original script by Patrick McGowan for the episode Free for All. So yeah, the main character can be said to be racing towards the camera here at the ending of Fallout, and when his face is shown, the very final shot of the show, the sound of thunder is still there, like slamming gates. As Patrick and others say, the main character in some ways is still the prisoner. Right, that's it. 22 interesting details to get you thinking more about this fabulous show. There is plenty more to say, and I've gathered enough information to make at least 1 or 2 in-depth video studies of this show. but perhaps you've got some interesting thoughts of your own that you might want to put out. Considering how deep it is, The Prisoner illustrates just how inventive and intricate TV shows can be if the producers, investors, and the makers themselves put a lot of effort and confidence to make their creations cryptic in places and not state every meaning of scenes, characters, and metaphors through dialogue.
So those ideas, I hope one can play with them forever. The sky's the limit, isn't it? The sky is the limit. You're seeing